For almost a month now, there has been a war between Israel and the Hamas in the Gaza Strip. As a reaction to the attack on October 7th, Israel intervened in Gaza and is now driving a massive offensive against the Hamas. But the conflict not only heats up the moods regionally, but also worldwide. It splits the nations into two camps. Those who stand iron on the side of Israel and those who support Gaza and thus Palestine. That's why in today's video we will ask ourselves the question, which countries are supporting Israel and which are Palestine? Why even Europe is so divided in this question, and why is the majority of the world supporting Palestine? We look at all these questions in today's video. Have fun! It is not easy to clearly assign all the countries in the world to one camp. Not all countries definitely indicate their position in the public affairs, and usually there are different flows within the state. But recently there was a UN vote in which the fronts were relatively clear. In an emergency meeting of the United Nations, a resolution was introduced that demanded immediate and permanent humanitarian weapons stagnation. This is categorically rejected by Israel, which is just about to bring its offensive into play. And so the vote was considered a voting test for many, which side supports the world community. Because the vote actually turned out to be more clear than initially assumed. In total, only 14 states voted against the resolution and thus for Israel. 44 countries abstained and an overwhelming majority of 121 nations voted in favor of the resolution and the immediate cessation of the Israeli offensive. But what are the geopolitical reasons for this voting result? Let's look at the supporters of Israel first. The most important allies are probably the United States. The USA not only played an important role in the founding of Israel, they were, for example, the first state in the world to recognize it, but they were also always a protection force that survived the Jewish state, especially in the early years of the war. The US considered Israel to be the most important partner in the Middle East, and almost all US presidents were close to the side of the Israeli government. But in Europe, the support of Israel is less clear. The continent is divided, as is rarely the case, between supporters, abstentions and rejections. Here, too, we see the supporters of Israel marked in red again. Czechia has long-standing, historically good relations with the Jewish state. Already in 1948, the Czech Republic sent a resolution to the United States, which was to give Czechoslovakia weapons and military training to Israel despite a UN embargo. And even today, the Czech Republic sees Israel as a small nation surrounded by enemies, similar to Czechoslovakia before World War II. The support of Israel even goes so far that the Czech defense minister threatened to withdraw from the United Nations this week with the withdrawal of her country. She explained that only 14 countries would have clearly and unquestioningly opposed this attack, so she is ashamed of the United Nations. Also, Hungary historically counts as a reliable partner of Israel. Because although Hungary otherwise often criticizes the USA, it is clear here with the United States on one line. Especially under Orban, the Hungarian-Israeli relations were raised to a new level. Because Orban and Netanyahu both count as conservative and nationalist politicians who act in a polarized political environment. Hungary sees itself as a defender of conservative Christians in Europe, and so Orban admires the struggle of Israel for Judaism. So he found in Netanyahu an equal-minded person, and so Hungary supports Israel in almost all respects so far. And Croatia has also been a close partner of Israel since the 90s. Both countries not only have close economic and political relations. In 2019, the Israeli president even called Croatia the most important ally in the EU. Already in the past, Croatia has invested in international organizations for the interests of Israel, and so this time it is true for the Jewish state. And then we would have Austria, which is usually declared neutral. But here it is not. But here it is clearly on the side of Israel, because Austria supports the reactions to the attack of October 7th. In addition, many politicians in Austria also see it as a historical task to support Israel after the horrors of the Second World War. Similar to what German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said. He even went as far as to call Israel's security as a German state resort. All the more astonishing was Germany's abstention from the United Nations. This was immediately criticized by the Israeli ambassador and numerous Jewish associations. Foreign Minister Baerbock justified Germany's abstention by saying that the paper was not balanced enough and did not clearly condemn Hamas attacks. But let's look back to the clear supporters of Israel, with whom you sometimes would not have expected at first sight. For example, Guatemala. Here, too, the support is based on historically good relations. As the second state after the USA, Guatemala moved its diplomatic representation to Jerusalem. And especially in the 1960s and 1970s, Israel supported Guatemala's military civil war. Paraguay has always been supported by Israel in the past, so this Latin American state, too, moved its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And the current president sees himself as Israel's close friend. And then we see Papua New Guinea as an area state where the president is also considered a big supporter of Israel and Netanyahu. In September, it moves the country as the fifth country worldwide to move its embassy to Jerusalem too. At the state visit, the president explained that he Jews feels connected so closely to Israel as the son of a pastor. We still have some small island states such as Fiji, Nauru or Tonga, which were partly due to religious or economic reasons for Israel. But if we now look at the states that are included, we see a large part of the West, including many European states such as Italy, Poland and Germany, but also Canada, Australia, Japan and South Korea. These are traditionally considered to be allies of Israel, but here they held their voices. The reasons for this are different. And we must not forget another close ally of Israel, India. This is due to the fact that a clear religious majority party also rules in India. The Hindu party Modi. The Indian Prime Minister is clear about the Muslims in his own country, and so he also condemned all the actions of the Palestinians. And since India's enemy Pakistan clearly supports the Palestinians, it is clear for India that it is on the side of Israel. But India also lacked a clear condemnation of Hamas. For Tunisia, however, the reason for abstention was completely reversed. The Tunisian UN ambassador said he abstained from the resolution because it failed to clearly denounce war crimes and genocide against Palestinians by Israeli forces. Other African states also made a similar argument. But now we come to the opponents of Israel and clear supporters of the Palestinians. First of all, we see the whole Arab world united, even the states that have approached Israel in the past, such as Morocco or the United Arab Emirates, are now clearly on Palestine's side. The Arab Parliament also confirmed the resolution and stated that serious measures should be taken to pressure Israel to comply with the resolution. Then we also see many more left-wing governments in Latin America, Asia and Africa seem particularly unusual. But the clear voting result of some European states appears to be particularly unusual. France, for example, has the largest share of Muslims and Jews in all of Europe. And again it came to almost civil war-like conditions due to ethnic and religious conflicts. Macron therefore has to weigh up to keep the country together. And in Spain and Portugal we also traditionally see a very high rate of approval for the concerns of the Palestinians with mass protests with hundreds of thousands of people. Ireland is also interesting, because there, decades ago, parallels were drawn with Palestine and its own fight for freedom against the United Kingdom. And a special case is Russia. Putin was traditionally considered to be an ally of Israel, but now seems to be in the course of geopolitical changes. Russia itself sees itself in the role of the tongue for the global south and against the west. And so Israel, which is closely linked to the United States, withdrew the traditional support. In addition, Putin also fears uprisings in the majority of Muslim-populated regions of Russia. So, that was the overview of the current geopolitical situation in view of the war in the Middle East. I would like to emphasize here again that the attitudes of the respective states are of course not in stone and that there are quite different views within the different countries. In addition, the resolutions of the UN General Assembly are always about non-binding votes. Nevertheless, it is the most important language for global diplomacy, in which all states of the world are represented, and the results there are always considered an outstanding mood test of global views. Well folks, and with that, we end our video today. Thank you all for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed our content. If you liked this video, We would be happy if you could like it and share the video on your social networks and subscribe to the channel. We have always appreciated your support. Now let's get ready for the next video here on our Wikivedia Plus channel. We'll be back soon. A big hug, and until then, bye!